Fun fact for today is you cannot have a conversation with someone who is eating without looking at their food. Enjoy the video and please subscribe. In secondary school, or what most of you refer to as high school, I had a lot of teachers. And when I say lots, I mean a lot of teachers. I had one who made me love physics, one who made me hate biology, and one who made me occasionally take naps. I use the word occasionally because I hardly take naps. Even when I was a kid, taking naps was a no-no for me. And that's the main reason why I couldn't look after kids. Because once I'm told to make sure the kids had their naps, I am usually very confused. But the good thing was that most of the kids usually fell asleep after 2 o'clock, so lucky me. Now back to what I was saying. In high school, there are different kind of teachers. We have the ones that are funny, the ones that are lame, the ones that are strict, and the ones that can teach but their classes are always boring. But in high school, I had this very unique math teacher. And I use the word unique because back then, the math teachers I was used to were the ones that it's either they could teach but were not very funny, or they were funny but cannot teach. It was never balanced. It's either having a very smart teacher but a very boring class, or a very funny teacher and a very dumb math class, if you get what I mean. So when we got this new math teacher, and for the sake of this video, let's call him Mr. Julius, it was a change of pace for all of us. I mean, we were used to having boring math classes, but now we had the math classes we could look forward to. And the good thing was that we had both an intelligent teacher and a funny teacher in one person. This was the first time in my life that it was balanced. So after spending about 3 weeks with Mr. Julius, he became most students' favorite teacher. And to be honest, he earned it. I mean, he was a very good teacher, he was very funny, and he would advise us anytime he had a chance. So yeah. But 3 weeks wasn't enough time to know who someone really is, especially when you are not in a confined space. So when we got to know him more, we saw that the person we thought he would be wasn't who he was. And because of that, we had to deal with major BS. And when I say major BS, I don't mean it was someone who would just start yelling for no reason or use pointless sarcasm. It was, let me say different. And when I say different, I mean it was different from most teachers back then. When he wants to get at someone, he will do it directly or indirectly. And when he does this, the person will know that he or she is getting attacked emotionally. And because of this, some students back when I was in 11th grade came to see him as being very sadistic. I personally wouldn't call him sadistic, but the man shot emotionally painful arrows. In 8th grade, Mr. Julius told us that when we got to 11th grade, we would see a more strict side of him if he was still in the school. And this was true because when we got to 11th grade, we saw a much more intimidating side of him. It was as if he went through an upgrade, and that was just painful because he was already a very strict person to begin with. Like there was one time when he gave us an homework that would also be regarded as a test, and though it was an homework, there was mass failure at the end. Naturally, a homework as a test was a sure basket, but Mr. Julius arranged it in a way that most students would fail even if they got all the answers correctly. How? Let me explain. The homework/test was 20 marks, and this was divided into 3 parts. The first part was submission. All students after 1 week were instructed to submit the assignment on the specified date before 7 o'clock in the morning. Doing this would give the student 5 marks. The next part was getting all the answers correctly, which would give the student 10 marks. The third and final part, which was the most crucial part, was defending the homework, and this would give the student 5 marks. The third part was crucial because if the student could not defend his or her answer, they will lose the 5 marks and inevitably fail the test. So it didn't matter if he got the marks from the first and second part. Failing the third part would mean failing the test. The other and main reason why the third part was necessary was that though it was a test, it was still an homework. So students could easily copy from each other. But Mr. Julius had a way of knowing if multiple homeworks were identical. So the only way for a student who copied to avoid Mr. Julius finding us would be to slightly edit his or her work. But now with the depending part of the test, the student that copied will have to memorize their work in order to secure his 20 marks. The man anticipated that students were going to memorize what they copied. So when the student got to the depending part and he or she were halfway into the solution, Mr. Julius would ask an alternate question similar to that which the student was solving, and ask the student to find the solution to both questions and relay the answers together. And because of this little twist, most students failed the defending part of the test, which automatically made them fail the whole test. Though the third part of the test was crucial, The first part was also very important because if the students didn't submit their homework to Mr. Julius before 7 o'clock in the morning, they will inevitably fail the test. Arriving at school before 7 o'clock in the morning was strange to most students because our assembly started by 7:30 a.m. and most students would come to school between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. So the submission part and the defending part made students fail painfully. And at the end of the test, over half of the class failed. Now, this was just one of the things Mr. Julius did to us back in high school that made students dislike him. And despite he was disliked by most students, I actually liked him. And though I may not have said this back in high school, I appreciate the fact that he was my math teacher. And though he had his flaws, which we all have, Mr. Julius is someone that I will never ever forget. So guys, this is where I bring the video to an end. So please hit that like button. And if you also have any dope teacher stories in high school, please share them in the comment section below. And I will see you guys next time on I Am Luka Romodoshi. Also, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.